All right, everyone, we're going to get started here. Welcome to our 2015 blog and webinar series, Back to Basics. Every day there's more and more clutter out in the world, and it's easy to get distracted and lose focus. So we're going to have a Back to Basics conversation this year about how to connect with your audience. And so that's the goal of what we're doing. So that you guys know, we're going to go through the presentation at the beginning, and then we'll open up and do questions. You can post questions on the Hangout that you're watching. You can post them on the YouTube channel, or you can use our hashtag RPS Back to Basics on Twitter, and we'll answer questions, any questions that you guys have at the end. So, all right. So looking over some of the attendees, we know a lot of you, but for those of you who don't know us, give you a little background. I'm Amanda Sutt. I'm CEO and Creative Director here at Rock, Paper, Scissors. We've been in this business for 3 decades, so we've seen a lot of change and done a lot of changing ourselves to keep up with the time. We are a brand and web development firm, so we focus on our client's brand, not just their logo and marketing collateral, but their entire experience, which in today's world, really there's that whole digital aspect of it. So hence why we really focus on web development. It's not just what the storefront looks like, but what is that digital experience, the website, your social media, your email marketing, and all that's in between. So we really look at that connectivity. So that's what we do. All right, so this is actually our second piece of content for Back to Basics this year. Earlier in February, we released our first blog, which was Know That Customer. And so I just want to do a little recap because it's really important for setting up, getting into the marketing channels. We're going to post a link to the article in the Hangout so that you guys can go back and find that if you want to look at it, but we'll go through the detail in it first. So first thing with Know That Customer is to think like your customer. We're away from the day of building a product and then finding a market for it. We're to the point where you are finding an audience and creating a solution for them. Actually, today it was perfect. There was a blog that came out from Bernadette Jiwa, and it's why you need to abandon the everyone mindset. And we're no longer mass marketing to everybody out there. There's just too many people. It's too expensive. It's a perfect setup for this of knowing who you're trying to connect with. And so we'll post a link to that as well, because it's a great thing to really think about of what is your niche market and who are you trying to connect with. All right, so the Know That Customer is really broken into 2 sections. The first one is demographics. And most people know the demographic side of this. This is the who. So these are your external surface factors regarding the customer. And this set up the important dividing lines when it comes to marketing and sales. So this is your age, your gender, your location, marital status. It's all these facts that is really pretty easy to compile, but it's giving you that baseline of who you're trying to reach. Like if you're just trying to reach 30-year-old men, you really want to change your message and position compared to reaching 30-year-old women or 18-year-old women. It's very different. So understanding who they are and what they look like. The next thing that you really need to take into consideration, and this is the next level of really understanding your niche, is the psychographic. And this is the why. This is getting into the psychology of your customer. Why is a customer motivated to purchase a product that has more to do with them as a person? So we want to understand what's motivating them, what's getting them to do something. What is their life really like? How are they going to connect with your brand? If they're this super busy, working mom, what moments would they actually have to interact with your brand? How do you make sure you're in front of them when they need you and not just pushing to them and frustrating them? You want to be available when they're ready. So this gets into really looking at your customers' activities, their behaviors, interests, social class, personality, lifestyle. Are they work all week and then they're not online at all on the weekends? Do they have huge social media peaks during lunch hour when they're on Facebook checking things? What is it really like for them? So you're looking at what their life is like, and you'll start to see patterns. So you need to understand both who they are, what they look like in the demographics, and then in the psychographics is why they do what they do. And so understanding this before you do any marketing is critical to your success, because if you know what your customer is like, it answers a lot of your questions as we get into these marketing channels, because we know where they are and what they're doing. So marketing channels, today's main focus. So marketing channels are the conduits that you use to connect your audience and drive them to a call to action. I love to use this example. Gone are the days of yellow pages. You used to just need to have a trifold brochure and a yellow page ad, and you were good to go. Okay, maybe it wasn't quite that simple, but looking back, it seems like it was that simple when we look at everything that we have going today. So in today's very busy marketing world, I don't even have enough pictures here to cover it, but you have email, we have digital ads, we have mobile, we have social media, we have billboards, we still have radio and TV and magazines and print and direct mail and everything in between. So when you're trying to figure out who your customer is, you have to put your brand where they are. And so that could be a grocery store cart, it could be Facebook, it could be Pandora, it could be a NASCAR race car. Wherever they are, that's what you're trying to figure out. And that's why those psychographics become so important, because if you've taken the time to understand who your customer is and what they do, you're starting to figure out where they are. Are they in the car all day? If they're in the car all day driving around, then radio or Pandora might be a good choice, and so would billboards, because then they're going to see that. Whereas if they're in the office all day or they work from home, they're not necessarily going to be out and about. So it's starting to think about and really look at what that customer looks like. Now, you're not just going to have one customer profile when you're building these. You might have different segments and different groups that you connect with. So it's important not to limit yourself to that. So the goal with all of this is how to connect and cut through the clutter. That's kind of the critical point, and that you really want to start thinking about, is not to continue to overwhelm people. That's the thing that keeps happening, is people keep getting bombarded because there's so many channels coming at them. You want to have your message where they are when it's convenient for them. So that's why we go back to that. Knowing your customer. If you know your customer, then knowing these channels makes this incredibly easy, because we've profiled them and we know what we want to put there. So the right channels for your business, it's important to know which channels add value to your brand and which ones take away from your time. This is a huge part of it, because you want to add value to your customer. You don't just want to keep pushing things in front of them and annoying them. You want them to, when they know they have a problem, is to automatically come and find you. And so that's part of what we want to think about. You also don't want to waste your time. There are so many different channels out there. How do you make sure you're spending your time and resources in a way that's going to build your business and make it better? So you only want to invest in that which is going to give back to you. So understanding that return on investment. So if you're where your audience is, then you'll get the return on that. This has not changed. That rule of 7, some people say 5, 9, I like 7. People need to see your brand 7 times, some different way, before they really connect and realize that it's out there. So digital and the world with work and really helps cut down on these different 7 points of interest, because you don't have to do a huge expensive direct mail campaign and mail out 7 anymore. If you match that with social media and email, you can really cut down on the investment side of that. And then you also are in those different places to figure out what's connecting better with your audience. So it gives you a chance to test and then really show how much you're trying to support your customer. So remember, you still need that repetition. That has not changed. These basic marketing principles are still in place. We just have a lot more tools in our tool belt to choose to get out there. And so what we're trying to do is figure out what are the appropriate tools for your business, which goes back to what did your customer do and what did they need. All right, the other important part of all of this is your call to action. You want to create quality opportunities for engagement that add value to your customers. coming back to that value side of it. You don't want to just annoy your customer into business. You want them to keep coming back to you, because then you're not going to have to continually market to them. You're top of mind for them. You're the first person that they're going to come to, and then they're going to send their friends and all of their other people to you. So it stimulates that word of mouth campaign on top of that. So you're not having to invest as much in your overall campaign. All right, the big part: track, measure, and refine. It's not worth doing any of this unless you're tracking and measuring to see what impact you're having and what is working and what's not working. And it's not just enough to track and measure and have analytics on your website, but you have to go in and look at it, and you need to make some decisions. I've always been of the mindset that do one thing, do it really well, and then add the next. Any of you who've been a part of our social media webinars and seminars will know that's the thing that I continually preach is pick one social media platform, get really good at it, make the impact, then add the next one. Don't launch everything at the same time, because you're going to trip over yourself. You want to make sure that you're building a good reputation and you're not just out there to be out there. There's too much stuff out there to be out there that it just doesn't connect with people. So that's the critical part of thinking about before you send out that first tweet or that first postcard. Know how you're going to track it. How are you going to make sure that the money and time you're putting into this campaign are going to actually deliver on the results? So also take the time to understand what you need this campaign to do for you. And then as it's coming back, having a good process for measuring it. And then sit down with your team and go, what worked, what didn't work? And do a good recap of it, or mid-campaign if you're doing something digital, so you can go in and make adjustments, so you can take it to that next level. So know what you're doing is making an impact on both your customer and your business, and invest wisely. All right, so some of the stuff I really want you to start thinking about is putting more into your marketing. So these are some questions as you're starting to work through your campaign that you really want to start thinking about is, what are you interrupting? So this is not just an annoyance interruption, but an interruption can be a good thing. But understand, with studying your customer psychographics and what it's like for them, what if you're doing a social media campaign, something on Facebook, for instance, you are placing an ad there, you're going to be interrupting their feed. Are they okay with that? And is it going to get you the results you want? So think about that impact of when your marketing connects with your audience. Is it going to actually be a positive experience? So really start thinking about. Also, always think about what you're asking people to do. Is it clear to them when they experience your marketing that they know what to do next, so that they're actually following through on that call to action? If they have none of the background that you've been doing all the studies and all of that information, what do they need to know in order to take that next step? And do they have enough information? And if not, can they find it? So that's something to really think about. If they're just stepping into receiving a postcard from you, what is that like for them? Will they actually take that next step? So think about that experience as well. So I like to always talk about playing pretend. So pretend to be your customer, and think about, they're coming home late at night, had just gotten the mail and everything's on their table. Are they going to do something about it? Do they even want that postcard, or is there a better way to connect with them? All right, the next thing I want you to think about, are they going to be able to do what you need them to do? So this is something this, with digital and print, is something that you really have to think about. If you're doing a completely mobile campaign, can they do everything they need to through the phone? So can they submit a form and do the call to action, or are you going to ask them to do 3 other steps so they're not going to be able to do it or forget? So think about that next process with them as well. So if you're doing a strictly digital campaign, can they do it in 3 steps without doing too much effort? So that's a critical part to think about with the marketing channels that you're looking at is that follow through going to be there for you? Next thing to think about is, where are you driving your customers? Are you driving them back to your website? Are you driving them into your store? Are you driving them to go talk to somebody, go into Facebook? Think about what those steps really look like. in the action that you want them to do? And is that really what you need them to do? Are you just sending people to Facebook and then keeping them on Facebook and not taking them to some type of form or to call you? So think about that next step of it. Final thing I really want you to think about is what you need them to actually do. And that kind of ties into all of this, but don't just put a call to action on there and not think about what it's going to be like for them, and making sure that it's easy for them to do that. So these are all things to think about before you even design anything or push, tweet, or post, putting the time and planning into this. It all comes down to quality content. There's so much noise out there that you need to think about that message. And we're coming back to, it's all about your messaging and creating messaging that and value for your customers. So we're keeping these pretty short and sweet for everybody because we know everybody likes to eat lunch and get back to the business. So I'm going to open this up to questions. If anybody has any questions, post them through and we will follow up on anything that's coming through for you guys. While you guys are typing, I see some stuff coming in. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the what's next. We're going to, in April, be focusing on email marketing because this is a huge, complicated, and amazingly powerful tool that is more than just sending out a message, but thinking about segmentation and building your list and giving your customers options. So stay tuned. We're going to do both a webinar, and we'll also be doing an in-person seminar here at our office. So just keep a heads up for that. We'll be sending out announcements in the next week or so with those dates and times. So that's up in April. We're going to take a little bit of a break in May as everybody is trying to get things wrapped up for summer. And then we'll be hitting the ground running this summer with some social media stuff as well. So stay tuned for that. And I think other than that, we're in good shape. We're going to send everybody a copy of these slides from today's presentation, and we'll send you a link to the video. So feel free, if you have questions afterwards, to send them over to us. We're happy to continue this conversation. Feel free to share the content with people, and we look forward to seeing everybody next time.